Good evening and welcome to this episode of History or Bust. I'm Jake Donoho alongside Teaghan Carter. Today we will be covering 4 unsung figures of the French Revolution, a time of radical political change in France. First up is Reine Audu. She was a French fruit seller, but not much else of her past is known. She led the Women's March on Versailles on October 5th, 1789, mostly because many of the women were upset about the constant threat of famine, high prices, and the scarcity of bread.
At Versailles, she belonged to the delegation allowed an audience with the monarch to put forward their complaints. She led the march back to Paris with the royal court, the king, the queen, and their sons in triumph. Afterwards, however, she was imprisoned in Grand Châtelet and Conciergerie. She was freed on the 15th of September, 1791. On August 10th, 1792, she participated in the storming of the Tuileries Palace. She was later honored with a sword by the Paris Commune for her acts of patriotism.
This is another really interesting character, I think, in terms of the French Revolution. We discussed in an earlier episode about characters of the American Revolution, but in the French Revolution, especially kind of the role of women kind of being like kicked under the table a little bit, it's really interesting to see her coming out as this kind of revolutionary person.
Especially interesting that she was just a fruit seller, like becoming such an important figure from such a nowhere kind of position, but somehow being able to have an audience with the king and the queen and their sons and all that, but then still ending up in prison and, but at least you got that recognition, I guess, the feeling of, well, at least I was a fruit seller and now I will forever be known as an important figure in the French Revolution.
Next up is Claire Lacombe, who is considered a heroine. Claire was born into poverty in 1765, and she spent a lot of time as an actress and was an accomplished performer by the time she was in her 20s. She yearned to go to Paris to be in the midst of the revolution, which she eventually did in July of 1794. She eventually became one of the leaders of the Society of Revolutionary Republican Women, which was a women's-only political club.
She also became a leader of the group called the Enragés, a militant group who seek to reduce, if not abolish, all social distinctions for the revolution. They also wish for a more democratic and social republic. Claire's radicalness upset a lot of people, and she was imprisoned in 1794, but was later freed a year later. After that, she decided to retire from a militant life, and she decided to return to theater, but quit after a few months.
This is definitely another character, a person of history who really was kind of shoved under the table. I mean, had a great effect on the revolution, yet not talked about too much. Yeah,
and again, from kind of humble means, not as humble as a fruit seller, but she wasn't a super well-known actress. She didn't necessarily get to have her breakout in Paris as an actress. When she got there, it was already revolution time. So she kind of just dived into the role of, being a political activist instead. And, because she didn't see any room for acting at that time, and this was apparently, and really was, much more important.
Definitely. I think in a time of revolution, everybody's kind of got to do their part and stuff like that. And when she got to France and stuff like that, probably not the kind of thing that she was planning on, but you get thrown into it once you're there.
Yeah, and she really took to it, being, the leader of these kinds of things.
Oh, definitely. We'll be covering more history or bust after this commercial break, including the Duke of Biron and a priest. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to be a war hawk?
It means allowing myself to dream big and think outside the box.
Pushing the limits of what I think is possible.
Seeing ideas through from start to finish.
Collaborating with professors and peers.
And seizing opportunities in the community to put my knowledge to use.
I'm studying abroad,
learning another language,
and listening to the stories of others.
I'm making lifelong friends and fearlessly sharing my gifts with the world.
As a war hawk, I stay balanced,
take great care of myself,
and get out of my comfort zone.
I refuse to let the past determine my future.
And I'm taking confident steps in the direction of my dreams.
Sometimes it doesn't make sense.
And other times it couldn't be more exciting.
But I will keep my goals in mind
and never quit.
Because
that's the Warhawk way.
The UC can get you connected to all your basic needs. Grab a coffee and a meal. Study by the fireplace. Bowl, play, and relax when you want a break from homework. The UC has much more to offer to Whitewater students. Go to the UC's website to see what's going on this week.
At the University Bookstore, we have an excellent selection of competitively priced books and classroom necessities for students. We have Warhawk gear ranging from athletic apparel to comfy sweatshirts the whole family can enjoy. The textbook rental service is also available for students to check out their required readings for class. You can also find and order books, apparel, and gift items from our online catalog, located at uwwhitewaterbookstore.com. The University Bookstore. We provide for your college experiences.
Welcome to Jitters Coffee House. Located on the first floor of the Wells Towers, Jitters is a student-run coffee lounge and offers a variety of coffee and ice cream-based drinks and is home to many entertaining programs, including live music, gamer trivia nights, and other performances. Coordinate your activity by emailing jitters@uww.edu. Jitters is completely run by volunteers who can earn service hours and even receive a free drink during their shift. Stop in tonight at Jitters Coffee House, where fun events and community come together.
Here at UWW, we put a lot of emphasis on shaping your involvement. Involvement helps you get to know more people with similar values and goals as yourself. The Student Involvement Office can help you get involved with organizations on campus, or we can help you start a brand new one. So what are you waiting for? It's time to shape your involvement at UWW. If you'd like to learn more, stop by UC 127 or contact us at involvement@uww.edu or call 262-472-6217.
Welcome back to History or Bust. Let's continue down the list. Up next is Armand Louis de Ganteaume, the Duke of Biron. He was born into a wealthy French family, and he grew up in the French court of Versailles. He was known for his great appearance and manners, and he was also a seducer of sorts. He had a very successful military career. He helped fight in the American Revolution, taking part in the Battle of Yorktown. When the French Revolution began, he served as a moderate deputy in the National Assembly and then went back to the army to fight the Austrians.
He remained loyal even after the execution of King Louis XVI. He took field against the counter-revolutionary Catholic rebels in the Vendée, but tried his best to limit atrocities against the civilian population. Denounced by ultra-radicals for this moderation, he was recalled to Paris, imprisoned, and sentenced to the guillotine. A day before his execution, he wrote to his father, translated from French, "Tomorrow I will die."
Kind of a dark last line there.
Definitely.
But, I mean, once you got imprisoned, I think most of the wealthy people kind of knew once that kind of pattern had been established, it's like, you really know, okay, yeah, tomorrow it's happening. I will die.
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes for like kind of all revolutions where it's like the people who were in charge before just saying like, oh, wait, this is going down. This might not work out how I had envisioned.
And when they start setting up the guillotine, you're just like, yep, that's probably going to be what's happening now.
Walking up to it, just being like, oh, okay, here it is.
It's like, this is going to be super duper. Slightly off topic, but did you know that after your head gets cut off by a guillotine, you're not fully not alive for 6 more seconds?
That is what I heard, and something that I never want to think about ever.
So tomorrow I will die after about 6 seconds when my head is removed from my body. So that's, something that he had to look forward to.
And finally, our last figure is Henri Grégoire, who served as a priest during the French Revolution. He was the son of a poor tailor from Lorraine. He later became a Catholic priest in 1788, and he won a prize-winning essay arguing for the bestowed rights to French Jews a year later. He became the member of the First National Assembly of the French Revolution, where he led the struggle in favor of Jewish emancipation.
He also campaigned for the freedom of slaves in the French Caribbean colonies, and he later won an election to become a deputy for the clergy. During the Revolution, he continued fighting for the rights of people of color, and he was also the one who proposed the abolition of the monarchy and the trial of King Louis XVI in September of 1791. After July of 1794, Henri was instrumental in securing the restoration of freedom of worship and guided the reorganization of the Constitutional Church. He also became a leading advocate in French linguistic unification, since at the time, most French people at the time did not speak Standard French as their first language. After the Revolution, he published one of the first studies of literature by people of African descent.
This is another really interesting person throughout history, because in the 18th century, not a lot of people were on the side of people of color, and it's just something that he stepped up, he knew what was the right thing to do, and spoke about it.
Mm-hmm. And he stuck to his guns. You know, he continued to do that even when there was a lot going against him, and was apparently instrumental in creating French as a unified language, and not a bunch of people making funny sounds in the backs of their throats. No offense to French, but that I took 4 years of it. That language is something else when it comes to pronunciation, and this is after unification. But it's amazing that he, started that, and we've never heard of him. And, doing all that, before war even happened, being on the side of the Jewish people and people of African American descent, and, people of color in general, and just being like, no, this is where we have to be focused. So it's pretty impressive.
Definitely. And that will do it for today's episode of History or Bust. Come back next week to learn more about other lesser-known figures from iconic time periods. Until next time.